Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Well, Grant, let's talk about the Calgary Flames, and there's so many different aspects that we could certainly look at throughout the week. One thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is the way the power play, which I thought hadn't been playing that bad earlier on in the year, has kind of disappeared. And you've seen situations where they've had 5-minute majors, double minors, so 4 minutes of penalties, and still not connect. But at the same time, the big guns have brought their productivity up a little bit, and I'm talking about, again, Len Camilleri. The guy I'm impressed with most on that team is Hoodler.
I was impressed with him earlier on. To me, his play has leveled off a little bit. He can sure dish off that puck really well. He's a great passer. He's okay. My feelings towards him have slipped a little bit. He's okay. He's okay. I mean, if Yuri Hoodler's not the problem with the Flames, I'm saying you can pick apart a lot of these guys on this team, but to me, he's not the real problem of this team. The power play, if it could get better, and I think it probably will, as those veterans are improving, and they are. Camilleri's doing better. Camilleri and Tanguay at the beginning of this week are leading the team in scoring, not Jerome McGinley in points. So it'll get better. I just don't like this team's work ethic.
It's a country club. It is,
but they changed the members of the country club, Mike. So you've been saying that for years. I understand why you say that.
It's a different kind of country
Here's what
club.
I think it is. I think the optics of it appears like they're not working because they don't have the talent or the physical strength to compete. So it looks like they don't compete. Where if you have a team that has the physical strength and the talent, you can tell they're competing. So to me, a Yuri Hoodler or a Chervenka or a Tanguay or a Camilleri, stature-wise, talent-wise, they don't have it to compete, so it appears. Do you agree with me? That's what I think it is. I've come to that conclusion. There may be a want, but there isn't an ability.
You know, I'm looking at the NHL, and I look at how many teams stay bad for a lot of years. And you see it in New York, you see it in Florida, and you see, now you have to say, you see it in Toronto. Now you have to say, well,
Oh, here for sure.
Calgary is not a good hockey team. It's not a quality, and it hasn't been since 1989, Grant. Since Cliff Fletcher has been here.
No.
Okay.
No.
The one run.
I agree with you. No, I think they were still good in the early 90s. I think Dave King had some good teams in 94, 95. In 1994, they lost to the Vancouver Canucks in double overtime in Game 7, the game at the Saddle.
But they haven't advanced to the second round.
I know, but and then in 95, they went to double or triple overtime, whatever it was, at San Jose. Sure.
Yeah.
And they had Fleury, they had Nieuwendyk, they had McInnes, they had a lot of good players. They didn't have a goalie. They had Rick Tabaracci and Trevor Kidd. So to me, I think they still were a pretty good team, Mike, in the early. So I don't totally disagree. 89, they won the Cup. 90, they blew it. 1990.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I don't get into 1990. But they blew that when they were still a very, very good team.
Yeah.
So
I guess maybe the end result since 1989.
And people around the NHL, Mike, have said that for a number of years in the last 5 to 6, 7, 8 years. Flames aren't a good team. We around southern Alberta refuse to believe that they are a good team. That sure, come on, which is not a bad thing to do. I mean, you should be cheering on now.
Well, you want to see playoff hockey here. You want to see them do well. People think that we just pick them apart because we got an axe to grind. It's not it. You want to see them succeed. You really do.
The one thing you mentioned, they haven't been a great team since 1989. I say since the mid 90s. Can you remember when this team has drafted and built and cultivated young players to come along?
Have they ever drafted well?
I don't think Fleury.
So. Yeah. Well, where did they get him? In the 8th round?
Yeah, 8th or 9th. So Theoren Fleury.
That's just kind of a sympathy draft.
I've said this before. But Theoren Fleury is the last skilled forward the Flames drafted that made an impact.
Yeah.
Forward. An impact. I think he was drafted in 87 or 88.
Yeah.
So you can't say Corey Stillman, Gary Robertson, those guys were way back in the earlier 80s.
Yeah. My favorite story
They've
is
never built. You've never seen the building blocks replacing guys. It's always been okay. This guy, this guy's. It's always been that kind of stuff. It's always been like that.
And it was Cliff doing it better than most people.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. But when it's like comparing athletes to the era. Who's the greatest hockey player of all? Who's the best football player of all? Eras are different. Cliff Fletcher paid the Flames. It was the highest paid team when they won the Cup in 1989. $6 million was the total payroll. So yes, Cliff was good. But when the economics changed, the rules changed, the league expanded. Where did Cliff go? He hightailed out of here, went to Toronto. And the new economics, they left Doug Gilmour, an inexperienced general manager.
Oh, Riseborough.
Sorry. Well, yeah, why I say Doug Gilmour, of course, he traded away of Doug Gilmour. They brought in Doug Riseborough, the most inexperienced guy at the most crucial time. So that's where it all went wrong. But getting back to this team right now, I just don't think they've got the team to compete. Now, having said that, if you look at the roster or look at the standings right now at the beginning of this week, they're only 4 points out of 8th place, and there's 2 or 3 teams tied for 8th place at the beginning of the week. If you had Mika Kiprasov playing goal for the last month, though goaltending was not a problem with Joey McDonald and Danny Taylor, but let's say Mika Kiprasov really got his game around and stole, what, 2 games maybe? 4 points? They're 8th place.
And that could very well happen, Grant, because you look at someone like New Jersey who loses their big guy and they lose 5 in a row. So the Flames really, despite the fact that Kiprasov was out, really didn't do that poorly.
No, they didn't.
I mean, you got to give them credit for that.
Now, when he got hurt, he wasn't playing great. But I'm assuming he can play a lot better, and if he was at that time in the past month, the Flames are in 8th place. So all this conversation we're having, the Flames are right where we all thought they'd be.
It's the same script for the last 10 years almost.
So instead of me coming down here and doing this every week, just bring the stories from last year.